under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call the meeting to order and go to the first order of business. These are public announcements and details may be found at www.fairfieldme.com. First would be the Lawrence Public Library will be hosting a Halloween event on Thursday, October 27th from 3 to 6 p.m. The Fairfield Police Department will be hosting a trunk or treat on October 29th from 5 to 8 p.m. on Escalon Drive in Fairfield. The 2023 dog licenses are now available. The second installment of the 22-23 property taxes is due on November 2nd. For November 8th, 2022 election absentee ballot requests are available through November 3rd. Public hearings, there are none today. The third order of business, public comments, limited to 3 minutes. Members of the public may speak to the council or request an opportunity to speak on a specific item that is on the agenda, or may email comments to the council at info@fairfieldme.com by 4 p.m. the day of the meeting. Submitted content may be read aloud at this time. Nothing?
Nothing.
Nobody else? Okay. Then we'll move on to the fourth order of business, which is reports from staff and committee. And the first report we will have is the town manager's report, and with some details on another situation also.
So on October 4th, I met with Joe Higgins, who works for the Bureau of Parks and Public Lands for the state of Maine.
Yeah.
We were discussing potential grant opportunities for the Snowmobile Club with regards to trail maintenance due to the trail expansion that's going to be happening over off from the Martin Stream Road. The grants would need to go through the town. That's how they work at the state level. So the Snowmobile Club will be formalizing their plan, and then will be coming before the town council once they work through all of that prior to its deadline. So that'll be coming later into the winter and springtime, but just to let you know that that's going through. So it'll be, that trail is going to be good for the area. And then on the 19th, I met with Eric Johansson, who's the pastor of the First Baptist Church on Newhall Street. They were looking for to discuss the possibility of using the community center on a regular basis over the winter. They have an idea for like a senior day warming center type of thing, and they're working on finalizing their plans with various other partners throughout the downtown area and throughout the community, and then that will also come back before the council once they're done with that. So those are two good things in the works. On the 25th, which was yesterday, the fire chief and I did meet with Delta ambulance staff regarding the letter from September 9th concerning the potential service fees. Those discussions will continue. That may very well end up being a presentation that does come back to the town council, but we're having talks about that. And then as an update on projects, the base coat of asphalt for the extension on Industrial Road has been installed. That was all put in place. The surface coat has been delayed because of the weather and the rain, but that should happen before the plants close in November. So that's moving right along. If you haven't been up through there, you can see all the racking system for the Guimond Solar Project, plus the transfer station facility that Gregory's is constructing is quite far along, so it's good.
Great.
And then I also did receive word this week that the final 4 lots on Industrial Road have been sold. Doug Cutchins contacted me earlier this week, and a developer has purchased all 4 of the remaining lots that are between the Gregory's parcel and the BDS Tire parcel. So
Excellent.
look for development there. And that's it for me.
Was there any, did you want to?
Are you talking about the,
Yes.
what was going on with social media today?
Yes.
So if you're not aware, there were some posts on social media today that I had heard from a couple of the counselors on regarding the deduction of $750 from our fire department staff. If you all recall back when you were discussing the ARPA funds and the bonus that would be administered on a quarterly basis, So what happened is that after your vote at the end of September, the very first payroll in October, the payroll department issued those bonuses because that first quarter was over. However, they didn't realize that those MOUs were not in place for our 3 unions that we had. I didn't realize any of it had happened until after all the direct deposits had already been sent to the banks. So in order to correct that situation, in the middle of that week, the MOUs were sent to the 3 different unions for them to sign off on, because the way union contracts work, of course, is that you can't take anything away that's in the contract, but you also can't give, right? So that's why we have a memorandum of understanding when those things are done. The fire department union has refused to accept those funds in the manner in which they were given. And I've also been notified that they plan to file prohibitive practice complaint against the town because the council unilaterally decided to administer those funds. So because they were not accepted to correct the situation, and they're correct, they should not have been given to the staff without those agreements in place. So because of that, those funds ended up coming back to the town. So that's what happened with all of that. So hopefully, the union will enter into conversations with the town, and we'll be able to get it settled and situated, and those funds will be able to go back to them.
Well, I hope so, because it wasn't anything, it wasn't anything that was even connected to the union. It was simply a bonus that we were given the workers. Had nothing to do with the union.
And I agree, it was a bonus to show our gratitude.
Exactly.
Right.
And I guess I would go a step beyond 2 things, I guess. I want to go a step beyond to enter into discussions with. I think you already have entered into discussions, so I think you've done those things, are doing those things. So it's not like you're waiting for a response.
Right.
So you've been proactive in trying to get responses, but it's been a delay, it seems like, at least from my
Right.
side of the fence.
So it's a subject that we can't go into too much detail because it does involve personnel and those sorts of things, but
Yeah.
I can publicly discuss my job performance
Right.
if I choose to. So just so the council is aware, I did send notification to the staff last week so that they were aware that this was happening, and then also held payroll to ensure that we could try to negotiate that this week until it got to the point where we just couldn't hold payroll any longer. So it is unfortunate.
Yeah.
But I'm sure this too will get
Okay. Committee report.
One thing, actually, as part of the town manager report, just understanding where we stand with economic changes and economic wins. How are we doing on, projection-wise, do you think, on revenues and expenses? I mean, the way I look at, collected 87% or...
So everything seems to be on trend at this point, the way it was going. So remember, the state of Maine finally got to the point where revenue sharing is at the full 5%. So that we seem to be collecting, you'll note every month when you get the treasurer's report, it does include that revenue sharing over the amount that we received from last year. We haven't seen a decline in any other of our collections. There are fluctuations oftentimes in motor vehicle and that sort of stuff, but things seem to be moving right along.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to committee reports.
Thank you, John. The Economic Committee is going to be meeting next Tuesday in this room at 3:30, and it's been very disappointing that we don't have our survey up yet. We've hit some snags. We're working through them, and hopefully it will be done at least by next week. The survey should be up. It's being composed by the Central Maine Growth Council, and they've sent us a draft, and so we're talking back and forth. So don't give up hope. It's coming.
So folks should go to the town website for...
Right, and it will be on the town website when
Okay.
it is ready to be surveyed, to be read. And
Right. You did. Yep.
I hope you guys will enjoy it.
Sure.
Any other committee reports? No. Okay, they're being done. We'll move on to the 5th order of business. Excuse me. Which is the consent agenda. These items are considered routine and standard business and therefore will be enacted in one motion. There will be no separate discussions on these items unless a council member so requests prior to consideration of this portion of the agenda, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered next on the agenda. Item 22-119, ordered that the town of Fairfield, that the Fairfield Town Council hereby waives the reading of and accepts the minutes for meeting 2022-17 held on October 12th, 2022.
And you read the next one, too?
Yes. I was just waiting.
Okay.
Item 22-120, ordered that the town council hereby approves treasurer's warrant number 67, general fund, in the amount of $1,279,631.10. Now, this is not limited to, but including county taxes, Reed Construction Fire Training Facility, liability insurance, health insurance, motor vehicle, road salt, and fuel charges.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Carries full. Now we move to sixth order of business, to take action on the following items of business as read by the council chair. Item 22-121. Ordered that the town council hereby approves a performance bond in the amount of $478,800 for the Reservoir Hill subdivision, Phase 1, subject to planning board acceptance.
So moved for discussion.
Second.
And discussion.
So this is what their, this is their plan, I take it?
Yeah.
This is what you received a map of is, the copy that you received of the roads is only the highlighted pieces, and see the darker lines that are in that plot map. Everything to the east of those lines is not what they're currently doing. So what ended up happening is this subdivision was designed in its full scale. However, they knew that they couldn't construct all in 1 year, so they're doing a phased approach with the planning board, mainly because of this requirement that's in our subdivision ordinance of the bond that needs to be posted for road construction. So the full amount of the project would be substantial, and the bond itself would be cost prohibitive for the project. So they did opt to scale down the project so that it's only including a total of 2,150 feet of road, which is just that small section of Easy Street, and then that portion of the main entrance of Reservoir Lane. The loop where the duplexes are, and you can see that in the upper left-hand corner, they plan to construct those duplexes, but they do not plan to ever request that that loop become a town way. Only these areas right here tonight that we're discussing. So this is done because of the fact that when they're finished construction, of course, they will be able to come to the town and request that they be made townways and town maintained.
Okay. Thank
And
you.
I think you mentioned earlier, they're meeting all the standards of the main DOT for...
Yes, so that sort of piece. So our subdivision ordinance does spell out exactly how roads have to be constructed. They've also had, because remember this comes off from actually a state road, so they had to work with DOT, and they were granted an acceptance in the design. Typically you have to have two separate entrances and egress areas. But because of its location being on that hill and the visibility, they were able to get the DOT to approve doing a doubly wide
Single.
intersection. So there'll actually be 2 lanes coming in and 2 lanes coming out, with a median separating the two in the middle, I believe, is how that's going to be constructed. So their intention is to work on that area, get those lots ready to be sold, and then also work on, they've already received approval for the commercial lot that they have there where they're going to be moving their businesses, which is in the lower left-hand. You can see, I think it's lot 7 It says commercial. It's right next to where Easy Street takes a left. It's right up to the right of that. So that piece they already did at the planning board, and now they'll be going for this remainder. So the reason why your motion states subject to planning board acceptance is because of the fact that technically what's supposed to happen is the planning board is actually supposed to set the rate, but because of the last minute changes in the phase plan and the timing of everything, the council was meeting before the planning board was going to meet again. So that's the reason why that number is there. And then the number that's put forth is estimated based upon cost of construction completed by October 31st, 2023. So it's not just current construction costs, but it has the inflation pieces built in, which says that you must take into consideration.
Anything else?
Good.
Need a motion?
So moved.
Oh, it's been,
You did.
I'm sorry.
Move and
Yes.
Been moved and seconded.
You're right. Too much discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Carries full. All right. Item 22-122, ordered that the town council hereby signs a quitclaim deed for Corey A. Rogers and Lauren E. Rogers for property located at 18 Western Avenue, map 19, lot 112.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
This is for,
Lease sewer liens.
so, okay, thank you.
Nothing else? All in favor? Carries full. Item 22-123, ordered that the town council hereby accepts the resignation of town councilor Mark Cooper, declares the seat vacant, and sets a deadline of November 8, 2022 for individuals interested in applying for appointment to submit a letter of interest and resume.
So moved.
So
Second.
Discussion?
it is November 9th.
It says November 9th.
Yeah.
That's what it says on my calendar.
So I just want to take the moment to thank Mark.
Yes.
I think his Northern Star was definitely true north. I don't think you have anybody more dedicated to his values. So a man of integrity, and whatever decision he made was definitely made with a lot of thought.
Yeah.
He definitely will be missed, and I want to thank him for his service, so I definitely miss him.
And I'd also like to thank
Yes,
him.
I agree. He did a very good job.
Yep.
All in favor? Carries full. All right. Moving on to item 22-124. Ordered that the town council hereby elects a council member to serve as secretary for a term set to expire on January 2023 council organizational meeting.
Doesn't matter. I'll do it if nobody else wants to.
It's fine.
I was going to nominate
Sure,
Matt.
Could nominate Matt, I'll second it.
Okay, I'll nominate
I'm
Matt.
All right, second.
I accept.
All in favor? Carries full. Okay.
Got to be quicker than that.
Seventh order of business, council workshop and other business, discuss the October 12th, 2022 workshop.
I thought it was very productive and eye-opening.
Yeah.
And I went to the Thursday night meeting as well, and very impressed. We have a lot of citizens that care so much about our town and with what is going on, and it's very heartening to see that. I just wish that we had more positive interactions to go with to get this camaraderie. And but overall, I thought that having our invited guests here and hearing them talk, that was an eye-opener for me. And that's it. And I think we're moving forward in the right direction. Do you have a report about how things have gone in the last few
I
weeks?
actually do have an update for you. I was
Good.
looking for something that was, it was supposed to be on your action items. It appears that it has been missed, but we can do it under other council business. Anyway, I did receive an update today from Chief Gould, so that I could share it with the council this evening. It said that I just wanted everyone to know that this week has seen a slight turn for the positive. I am aware of a social media post about area kids stopping traffic again, but we have not been able to confirm anything. Some harassment calls were taken and are being investigated still, but overall, many of them are trying to do better. One call was made about a specific juvenile, but we confirmed he was at home at the time. Yesterday, I met with one juvenile who has agreed to community service. He was instructed to come to the PD and meet with me so that we could start making some positive community interactions. When he arrived, he was accompanied by another juvenile who felt he was responsible for some of our calls and wanted to be a part of the solution. Because of the heavy rain, we were limited as to what we could do, but we accomplished a long-needed repair in the community center. They were very respectful and worked hard for me. They spent a half hour playing basketball when we were done and were quite tired when I brought them home. A long discussion with them revolved around the fact that they have no area in town where they can spend time together by themselves. We talked about using the community center basketball courts from time to time, and they thought that that would be a good idea. I understand how awful some of these kids have been to deal with, but we need to remember that positive interactions with adults is much more effective than negative. They have agreed to meet with me after school one day next week, and we will be raking and cleaning the Grange area in Fairfield Center. I know it's not an in-town location, but it is remote enough that I can monitor their actions and gauge how they will act locally. We will then start cleaning up some of their messes in town. So,
Excellent.
all in all, a positive
Very
experience
good.
this
Yeah.
afternoon.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah, and Mike, did you, we had talked about KV,
That's another thing.
KV Cap.
Yes.
Yep, I've spoken to
you-
them.
Yeah?
Yep, I spoke with Michelle Prince regarding that, and that, yes, they have the teen center in Waterville, and we could start a conversation with them. It's how it is funded and the various different pieces. Usually it's through, I think it's CDBG money, and some various, it's also through the Alphonse Center, so we did start that conversation. Also, for another update, so of course, as we had said, that the chief was going to meet with folks on Thursday, and then just so you're aware, last week in the community center, Representative Rudnicki did use a conference room here, and she has already put a bill in to reverse some of the actions that had happened last year. So that work is also happening.
And that was a
in
good
regards to
meeting
that
as
stuff.
well, productive.
Yeah.
Representative Rudnicki, and then also Robert Cezak was there, representing the county, and then a number of folks. So I thought we were making positive grounds that way. I think, again, it showed the complexity of the problem. We all want an easy solution. And I'm glad that Chief Gould is doing what he's doing. That's awesome with the community service. But I think it opened everybody's eyes to, the different parts of the issue.
Yeah.
So I think we're all actually working together and slow improvement, so.
Yeah. Michelle, when you were talking with KV Cap, was it for us to join their teen center or for a teen center to come to Fairfield?
So it would typically be done here in Fairfield.
Fairfield.
Yep, and it would be a matter of, is there a location, where would that be? We discussed, would, say everything goes through for the new school, would Fairfield Primary be a prime location
Or the
for
annex.
such a piece? Because especially where they have, they have the gymnasium space in the back and all of that.
Yeah.
So would that work? And she just said, if that goes this portion goes forward, then they'd be willing to have a conversation.
That'd be an ideal spot, really.
Yep.
Yeah, because I was thinking of the annex next to the
Yeah, so
primary.
their funding that they've received already has been exhausted, so it wouldn't be anything that would be able to happen anytime soon anyway, but she did say that we could certainly talk to them further about that.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. All right. Number 2 would be discuss PFAS.
I think this comes back to your meeting that you had a month ago, probably now.
Yes. Yep. So at the tail end of the meeting last week,
Right.
when you guys were going around the room for public comment, and after that long meeting, we discussed the fact that I had sat on a panel for Maine Municipal Association's presentation that they did up at the convention on Thursday, whatever, it was either the 6th or I think the 6th of October. I was able to go on their website today and get the PowerPoint presentations that were submitted. Sitting on that panel was Haley Ward, which is an engineering firm, the folks from SACO, and as well as Suzanne Miller from the DEP. I had sent a copy of a slide around to the town council for you to take a look at. It has not been posted to our Facebook page yet, but it does give updates on the numbers and how all of those pieces work. If you want to see that. And then, so of course, it was, a lot of folks that were there at convention actually were more interested in some aspects of PFAS that we don't really talk about a whole lot here because we don't have a waste treatment facility. But that's what a lot of the municipalities were interested in. So of course, if you are a community that has a waste treatment facility that you operate and run, the financial burden of getting rid of sludge has become a very real issue for them. And how is that all going to work? And is there a way to treat, sludge? And so that was a lot of the conversation. So that's an impact to municipalities that we don't really talk about a whole lot here. I mean, it's going to come up. I've mentioned it in passing. When we do our sewer budget for next year, there's going to be that additional $20,000 is what they're estimating in the sewer budget to help fund for sludge disposal. There's some real concerns about capacity issues. Right now, it goes to the landfill that's up in Old Town and whether or not they're going to continue to have space for that material because it's not, it's not just KSTD, but it's everybody across the state. So that was one of the big things. So that's one of the other reasons why Haley Ward was there, was to explain that sludge process. So what we did receive for information, which took us through September, I had requested some updated numbers from the DEP because, again, we don't get numbers on a regular basis from them. We do have to request them. So through September, the number of water supplies that were sampled have been 412. The number of water supplies with a sum of 6 greater than 20 parts per trillion. So remember, when they test for PFAS, they test for 6 different ones, and it's the sum of those 6 combined has to be greater than 20 parts per trillion be eligible for a filtration system. So out of that 412, 175 of those are greater than 20 parts per trillion. The number of water supplies with PFAS detection less than 20 parts per trillion for the sum of 6, but greater than non-detect is 184. The number of wells that are at non-detect are 53. They believe the highest level recorded was at 54,100 parts per trillion for the sum of 6 PFAS. And it was interesting at that meeting, there was a gentleman that spoke to the woman from the DEP, and he was very concerned about his PFAS levels being 4. And he wasn't quite so concerned when he heard this. But and as for cost, because that was one of the things that we really hadn't seen, and it was a piece that I was looking for, was that the DEP hasn't separated costs for Fairfield alone, but we are comfortable estimating that at least half of all PFAS expenses from the start of DEP tracking, which was in 2018 until September 26, 2022, relates to work done in Fairfield: sampling, bottled water, filtration system installation, monitoring, maintenance, sheds, etc. The total amount DEP has spent so far is $3,092,277.52. Estimated total amount for Fairfield is $1,546,138.76, and this does not include any of their cost of labor. So staff time for doing the testing and all of that is not included in that number. And so in the approximate cost of services, average cost of a typical filtration system with no pretreatment or shed is roughly $3,400. Filtration changeouts typically cost $1,500 or more. Some systems will need 1 changeout a year, some will need more, so on average, DEP estimates about 2 changes a year, which is about $3,000 a year per system. Routine sampling and monitoring costs about $2,500 to $4,500 per system, depending on the contractor, frequency, and rates. Pretreatment systems, which I did have a question about that. A pretreatment system would be if they needed a water softener. Those can cost $3,500 or more. And then a shed, that if that needs to be constructed, can cost $8,700 or more. So that is our updated numbers that we have from the DEP. And I did just this afternoon do another interview with, hold on, I'll give you her name. It was Marina Scheffler. She's an independent journalist and has been doing a multi-part series for the Maine Monitor. She sent me a link to a large number of PFAS articles that she has written over the course of the last several months. I can email that link out to folks, and we'll probably make sure we get that up on our website. And that's looking at all kinds of different things regarding PFAS. So I did speak with her this afternoon, and those pieces. So that's kind of all I have right now.
Yeah, I guess 3 things that you may be able to answer, but may not be able to. Was there any discussion about those wells that are kind of in the new considered contaminated, PFAS, in between non-detectable and 20 parts per trillion? Where before, they're only providing filtration for greater than 20.
Right, no discussion about that. No discussion. And in fact, one of the things that came up at the presentation that I didn't realize is that if the state discovers a well that is greater than 20, but they feel with relative certainty it had nothing to do with a licensed sludge spreading location, they're not providing filtration systems. So there's not everybody in the state is getting filtration systems, even though they discover that they're higher than 20 parts per
Only
trillion.
permitted sludge.
Only if they're in an area of permitted sludge.
And you think, so 2 more kind of follow-ups on the Kennebec Water District. I guess you foresee some rate increases on the sewer end?
Yes. Well, yeah, depending, right?
But that'd be one.
Yep.
And also on their filtration, they must be looking at having them meet federal standards at
For
some point.
discharge, yes.
And also for their water system. I guess that's one of the biggest discussions. They're like, they're contaminated.
So, one of the things that I know is that the Madison-Anson Sanitary Treatment District has received grants over the course of the last year, and they are working on a filtration system to filter out PFAS from their effluent, right? That's the liquid discharge that actually goes out into the water body. And so they're working on that process. I've heard that it's quite costly and there's no guarantee that it's going to work. But other people have said it's going to be perfect and do exactly what it needs to do. So that is happening. I do not know what the sanitary treatment district is doing, but I know as regulations continue to change, right? So now they're having to test their effluent all over the entire state. Every waste treatment plant has to test that. And what are those regulations going to look like? I know that the water district, separate entity, did commission. They put out a bid, I believe, for investigative work as to what it is they would have to do to filter out PFAS prior to water distribution. So I know that they're looking at that piece, but I don't have any other updates on them than that.
Very good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else?
And probably on that same end is obviously the discussion about additional testing. People that feel they'd like to have their water tested, and that's just a state testing. That's on the state. But how do other municipalities, how they're assisting or looking at that? Yeah.
I'm not aware of any that are.
Yeah. Okay.
Is there anything at all about how it's going after the scientific labs that created the
I have
forever
not
chemicals?
heard, other than I know that, of course, the state had put out an RFP a long time ago, right? They were looking for lawyers and specialists so that they could start their own lawsuit. That was mentioned by the DEP, was that because that topic did come up, other municipalities had been approached about joining lawsuits regarding PFAS. I had explained that, that the council here had also looked at that, but, strangely enough, the town as an entity is not aggrieved, and therefore, at this time, there wasn't anything that you could join. But,
Right. Well, I was just looking at the...
But what was
the people that
mentioned
invented the
was
things.
that the state of Maine is definitely going after the manufacturers of
Yeah.
the chemicals themselves. They are still continuing that pursuit. I don't know where they are with that, and they didn't get into
I mean, those
details on
things have
that.
been
but
around for
yeah, they're definitely
multiple
pursuing that
years.
angle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there a way to follow that? I mean, who do you contact? Is that DEP? Is that the
I mean, yeah,
AG?
certainly I
Is
could
that-
start there and then
Yeah.
find out where that goes. It's probably the AG's office, but
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's got to be a nationwide situation.
Right.
Is what it really is going to boil down to, because this stuff is not just here, it's all over the country.
Right. It is a nationwide situation. It's a worldwide situation.
Right.
It's on top of Mount Everest, and
Oh, yeah.
the recent discussion has been that, so the EPA recommendation of 0.0004 parts per trillion, the amount that sometimes comes in rain is higher than that.
You're right.
Right, so is that recommendation actually going to become the rule or not? Because is it even obtainable? But
And there's some discussion when that might become, when that would go to
it was,
rulemaking.
yeah, I think it had said late this fall or potentially next spring. So
Oh.
we're watching.
Yeah.
And there's a new organization too that's just been created. I've posted it on our Facebook page. I notice on it. I think it was just last week. I forget their name, but they're involved with a lot of the Department of Ag stuff, and it was for assistance for farmers. They had referenced, the piece with MOFGA and the money that's
Yep.
being done for that kind of stuff, so. Different resources.
Okay. And we will go to then discuss other council business. Start off with, yes.
I have
Michelle.
an issue that I know that the council got the packet on, but as we've been going through things here tonight, I must have somehow in your original agenda left off
The real estate?
the request for land purchase from the
Oh,
from
yes,
the
we have
Weldons.
that. Yeah, you're absolutely
Can
right.
we add that under your workshop?
Sure.
So, the individuals that live at 368 Skowhegan Road,
Yeah.
Mr. and Mrs. Welton, have requested the ability to potentially purchase a piece of a town-owned property, which is map 7, lot 35, so that they can square off their land. And as I've discussed this with them, what happens is as you did with the piece of property that you released to the abutter here to the community center just outside of the playground, is that the resident, the individual making the request is responsible for the survey work, the deed work, all of that stuff, which comes, of course, at an expense. And what they want to know before they were to go forward is whether or not this is even a piece of property that the town council would think about releasing a piece of before we even start down that road regarding costs and that sort of stuff. And so I've given you a copy of their request, a copy of the map so you can see where that is and that's located. So if you're not familiar with where this lot is, this is the 27 acres we own that wraps around the Fairfield Antiques Mall property and Robert Dale, and then comes
Okay,
back
yeah.
around on the other side of the Zimber property. And these folks live just to the other side of that.
Yeah.
Advice? When you look at it, it's a fairly small piece, and it looks like our
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't-
property is still accessible and, usable going forward.
Right. It doesn't appear as though it would affect anything to do with any sort of access to the lot.
Right.
It does give them a square lot as
Yeah,
opposed
that's
to a
the
triangle lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it does do that. And if you notice, it appears that it comes in, just slightly before, there's a little bit of a wetland area there anyway. So if that is something that you're interested in doing, we can continue those talks with them.
Yeah,
and
I don't
go
have any
forward.
problem with that.
I would agree.
I'm fine with it. There's a lot of people mentioned as in that document that you had given us.
Yeah.
And that I found very confusing as to the legality of everything. So this big strip of land is owned by whom?
Right, it's owned by us.
It's us.
It is us.
But all these other people that are named,
So this was because it was given as part of a trust, and there is, in the original document, there were a lot of people who could or could not own property. Like, there was a lot of parameters put on this land, and a lot of that is no longer in play, and that sort of stuff, because it does state that upon the death of, so those sort of things. But, yeah, it's an interesting little piece, but that would be, so then what happens with that is that it's the person making the request responsibility to make sure that that all gets completely ironed out. And those sort of, I mean, we assist, right? We give all the data and information we
Right.
have, but
it was an interesting
it
read.
is an interesting one. This was a piece of property that we acquired long before I got here, but
Yeah,
it was
Yeah.
done
just a
as,
couple of years ago.
Just a couple.
wasn't there like
decades ago.
there was a loan associated with this or something? Wasn't there money associated with this with the Historical Society? Wasn't it?
And then
It's like-
that faded away.
And then that went, like, it was over time, and I don't have all the history for it, but,
Yeah.
yeah, it was an interesting piece.
It was.
Okay, good, all right, thank you very much.
Okay.
I have no other council business.
Matt?
I had only one that maybe we can bring up now. I'm not sure if we can. A part of that earlier social media dealing with the fire department and the law and their bonus, but part of that also had them being concerned about being burned out and working long shifts, and there were some large numbers there. I don't know how much you can speak to that, Michelle, or that's more for the chief and/or somebody else to talk about scheduling and the validity of that.
So, I'm gonna talk about a couple of things. So currently, normally the fire department operates with 6 full-time staff. Currently, we have 4 full-time staff because 1 has resigned and 1 is out on leave. However, we have per diem staff that cover shifts. So the way it works is that we have 2 people per shift, and they work a 24 to 48-hour shift. And we always have 2 people per shift, and we still have 2 people per shift. That's there. And that's, I think, about all that I can
Okay.
talk about publicly.
Okay. I think that's, yeah, I think we talked about Mill Island, we talked about the public safety, we talked about the PFAS, and that was a question. So I think, yeah, I'm set.
Okay. Michael, you have anything?
No, I'm good.
Okay, I'm good. We've got more concerned over the money from the fire department and stuff, and, feel terrible about it, but we approved it and let it go, and the union said no. What can we do? All right. I guess, and moving on to the regular next meeting of the Fairfield Town Council will be on Wednesday, November 16th, 2022, to be held hybrid meeting via Zoom in council chambers at 6:30 p.m. At this time, we will go into recess and sign all documents that require signature of council members.
So moved.
Second.
We're in recess.